Are really obsessed with greed. Look, it's understandable. Everybody wants to have more money. You want to live a good life. That's natural. We all do. But if you have $5 billion, do you really need to step on people in order to get another $5 billion? How much money do these people need?
Yeah.
And then it's not just inequality in terms of money. These people use their money to maintain their power and the status quo, and they're very smart at it. So in my country, at least, you have billionaires owning the media, and you have 90% of the American people getting media from 8 multinational media conglomerates. And they frame what we're supposed to be outraged at. We have drug company executives in America who are raising prices, and we pay far more than you do for prescription drugs, but are raising prices so high that thousands of people die each year because they can't afford the medicine. What do we call those people? If a kid walks into a store and robs it, that's a criminal. I think these people are bigger criminals, and we have to deal with that reality.
75 years ago, Hermann Goering testified at the Nuremberg trials, and he was asked, how did you make the German people go along with all this? And he said, it's an easy thing. It's not anything to do with Nazism. It has to do with human nature. The only thing a government needs to make people into slaves is fear. And if you can figure out something to make them scared, you can get them to do anything that you want.
Μεταξύ των ομιλητών που επιλέχθηκαν για να μιλήσουν στο Παγκόσμιο Οικονομικό Φόρουμ στο Νταβός, αρκετοί δήλωσαν ρητά ότι στόχος του οργανισμού είναι η δημιουργία μιας νέας παγκόσμιας τάξης. Ένας από αυτούς ήταν ο Μπιλαουάλ Μπούτο Ζαρντάρι, υπουργός εξωτερικών του Πακιστάν, ο οποίος δήλωσε: Γίνεται πολλής λόγος εδώ στο Παγκόσμιο Οικονομικό Φόρουμ για το πώς θα μοιάζει η νέα παγκόσμια τάξη, πώς κινούμαστε προς αυτή τη νέα κανονιστική διεθνή τάξη που θα μας επιτρέψει, ως πολιτισμένος κόσμος, να αντιμετωπίσουμε τις διαφορές και τις διαφωνίες μας. Όταν οικοδομήσουμε αυτή τη νέα παγκόσμια τάξη, ελπίζω ότι αυτή τη φορά θα συμπεριληφθεί η φωνή του Νότιου ημισφαίριου και των αναπτυσσόμενων χωρών, δήλωσε ο Μπούτο. Μια άλλη ομιλήτρια στο σόου των κλόουν του Νταβός παραπονέθηκε ότι οι χώρες βάζουν τη δική τους κυριαρχία πάνω από τα συμφέροντα της παγκόσμιας τάξης. Ήταν η υπουργός εξωτερικών της Σλοβενίας Τάνια Φάγιον που δήλωσε ότι υπάρχουν χώρες που σέβονται το εθνικό τους συμφέρον υπερβαίνοντας τους κανόνες. Πρέπει να λάβουμε υπόψη μας την παγκόσμια τάξη. Ο δημοσιογράφος Πολ Τζόζεφ Γουότσον του Summit News αναφέρει ότι τα κυρίαρχα μέσα ενημέρωσης συνεχίζουν να απορρίπτουν τη νέα παγκόσμια τάξη ως θεωρία συνωμοσίας. Ωστόσο, όταν οι παγκοσμιοποιητές χρησιμοποιούν αυτόν τον όρο, είναι καλό πράγμα. Όπως πάντα τα μέσα ενημέρωσης παίζουν με τα μαύρα πιόνια του σκακιού. Και πώς θα είναι η ζωή υπό τη νέα παγκόσμια τάξη που βρίσκεται ήδη σε εξέλιξη. Δεν πρέπει να κάνουμε άγριες υποθέσεις. Απλώς να συνοψίσουμε αυτό που κάποιοι άλλοι συμμετέχοντες στο Νταβός περιέγραψαν. Ο καθένας ρητά πώς θα εκδηλωθεί η ζωή υπό τη νέα παγκόσμια τάξη. Πόλεις των 5 λεπτών. Απαγόρευση των αυτοκινήτων, εμφυτευμένα τσιπ στον εγκέφαλο, ψηφιακή βάση δεδομένων για την παρακολούθηση της κατάστασης εμβολιασμού των ανθρώπων, μια νέα πανδημία και η καταπολέμηση της παραπληροφόρησης από όσους λένε όχι στο εμβόλιο, το τέλος της ελευθερίας του λόγου και της σκέψης, ανατροπή κάθε πολιτισμού από τους ΛΟΑΤ, μια παγκόσμια θρησκεία βασισμένη στον περιβαλλοντισμό, επιτάχυνση της οικολογικής ιστερίας για την κατάληψη περισσότερης εξουσίας και τη μείωση του βιωτικού επίπεδου, προειδοποιεί ο Γουότσον, του Summit News.
The problem that we've got at the moment is that the
onslaught we're facing by globalists, and they are operating in pretty much every country because they desire one world government. And this onslaught, of course, part of it is to shake the ground from under our very feet so that we no longer have a sense of reality. Part of what the media is currently involved in is to attack everything that we have found sacred. And that includes, for example, children. You in the United States of America would be familiar with that because of the children being presented at sexualized drag queen shows. And
Right.
I'm not commenting on the drag queens. I'm commenting on the fact that children are present in
Right.
highly sexualized shows, and that's my point there. Whether it's that being normalized or indeed the gender debate which you mentioned in this show.
Yeah.
When the corporatist media and the globalists that control the corporatist media attack everything that we find sacred, what does that serve? Well, if there is nothing left that is sacred, children, gender identities, eating human flesh, if nothing remains that is sacred, then everything can be commodified. Now, if you think about that, what does that do? If everything can be commodified, another word for that is slavery. And that's what's going on here. Technocratic slavery is their aim. And by that, I mean having all of us bound by digital identities that log every single one of our transactions forever. Now, of course, the problem with that is, as happened in Canada with Trudeau and the truckers' protest, the minute you do think or say something, and I put the word think in there on purpose because if you're monitored, then the machine will know what you're thinking as well. If the minute you do think or say something that is upsetting to the powers that be, they can switch off your bank account. As happened in Canada, they can freeze your ability to engage in financial transactions. They can stop you leaving the country with vaccine passports. That infrastructure has already been set up. So it's total slavery. And that's what they're seeking. And to achieve that, you have to undermine our understanding of everything that is sacred, to shake the ground from under our feet.
Really sparked my attention is you put out a tweet this week about this new person being hired at the WHO. A 40-year member of the Communist Party of Britain, Mr.M.E, has just been appointed chair of WHO's Technical Advisory Group for Behavioral Insights and Science for Health. Communist British scientist dubbed Stalin's nanny, who wanted to face mass and social distancing forever, is given top job at World Health Organization. So, is she a communist? Is this real? Is this legit? What are we talking about?
Yeah. So she is and has been for over 40 years. This is not an opinion. This is not a controversial thing to say. Well, thankfully, Del, we do know a bit about her views.
And the third thing is people's behaviour. That is the behaviour of social distancing, of when you're indoors, making sure there's good ventilation, or if there's not, wearing face masks, and hand and surface hygiene. We'll need to keep these going in the long term, and that will be good not only for COVID, but also to reduce other.
So when you say long term,
NHS
sorry to interrupt, Professor Mickey. Jen, when you say long term, what do you mean by that? How long? Very quickly.
I think forever.
There you are. Now that's why it's relevant that she's been a member of the Communist Party for over 40 years, because clearly, at least people, if they don't know much about Mr.M.E, who's now, let's remember, just been appointed in the World Health Organization as chair of their behavioral scientist group, right? That's it, the title right there, Technical Advisory Group on Behavioral Insights. Now, why it matters is this woman believes that these mandates need to remain forever. And of course, communists believe in the state and the power of the state. They believe in a state-heavy way of organizing society. The other thing I'll say, Del, is that the person that was chair of this committee in the World Health Organization before her was an American. He was Obama's information czar, Sunstein. Cass Sunstein, Obama's information czar. Now, the interesting thing is what these people believe in. They say with their own words, they tell us what they believe in. So he's written a paper in which he spoke about the need to challenge conspiracy theorists, and the government needs to do so. This is the paper. And in this paper, there's a very interesting word that he uses. One of the recommendations he makes right there at the bottom of the page you're looking at now is cognitive infiltration of the groups that produce conspiracy theories. Now, I believe, Del, that this is an incredibly sinister term. You can see in recommendations 1 and 2, he talks about banning conspiracy theories and the government taxing or other financial otherwise imposing some kind of punitive measure on those who disseminate such theories.
Yeah, I mean, like just total control. This is certainly not based on the Constitution and the dream of America.
Which also, again, is under attack because people are now going for the Second Amendment. But the term there, cognitive, what they use there, cognitive infiltration, is what I would like just a moment to dwell on, because I think it's an incredibly sinister term. Now, it's not just talking about planting government assets within opposition groups who they're calling conspiracy theorists. That would be bad enough. It's also not just talking about false flags. It's also not just talking about spying on them. Now, cognitive infiltration, I believe, takes it a step further. What I believe this is referencing is weaponizing our thoughts against us and our fellow people in society, our fellow citizens. How would you weaponize human beings against other human beings? Through cognitive infiltration. You can use the media, corporatist media, to spread propaganda, because that's the right word for it, that convinces the populace that by breaking these mandates, they're going to kill their loved ones. What you succeed in doing is turning them into weapons of enforcement. They will willingly, without the need for a policeman to help them do so, snitch on their neighbors. They will willingly use physical force if they need to stop you killing your grandma, their grandma. So cognitive infiltration means getting inside your head, under your skin, and weaponizing you to act as an agent of the state against your neighbors and against everybody else that your friends and family. If they've achieved to some extent that cognitive infiltration, the weaponization of human beings, and I believe that Susan Michie, who's now going to succeed Sunstein in that position, as a member of the Communist Party for over 40 years, is very well versed in how to use ideology to subvert our social contract and the values that make up the core of our society. And I believe that they know exactly what they're doing here. And clearly we can see in both Sunstein and Susan Michie's case that they are seeking to increase government state power, to impose on people against their will whatever mandates the state requires, whether it's to censor, because in Sunstein's case he was an information czar, or the COVID mandates in Susan Michie's case, who's now taken Sunstein's position, let's remember. Now, what that leads to, of course, is a huge gap of trust between the people and the state. The more stringent these mandates become, the more upset people get. And I believe they also understand that. They know that this is going to break apart the social fabric. That's precisely what they want. Because let's not forget, you cannot build something new, build back better, unless you first destroy. And that's what the Great Reset part of this is. They want to destroy our trust in institutions. And of course, they control those institutions, and they are able to therefore destroy our trust in them because they are implementing policies that are absolutely bonkers. So they will destroy our trust in these institutions. That will lead to a huge gap of trust between the people and the state. The people will reject the state eventually. There'll be food shortages, gas and energy shortages. That leads to riots. It leads to crime. It leads to a breakdown of society. They're attacking everything sacred, as we've just discussed. And what they're hoping to achieve is through the tearing apart of the fabric of our society, is the total collapse of our financial system. And they're hoping they can replace that with their new world order. Now, President Biden, by the way, has already given a speech in which he's declared that it's time for a new world order. And he found it somehow relevant within that speech to say that the last time there was an attempt for a world order, and he was referencing World War II, he said 60 million people needed to die. And he put that in there in the speech, talking about today, this day and age, saying we're entering a new world order. This is no conspiracy theory when they tell us every single time precisely what they're seeking to achieve. It's the Great Reset, then it's Build Back Better, and it's a new world order. And that means one world technocratic government.
Όμως, αν επανεξετάσουμε όμως το ιστορικό του Αμερικανού Προέδρου, αξίζει να θυμηθούμε ότι το 1992, σε ένα δημοσίευμα της Wall Street Journal με τίτλο «Πώς έμαθα να αγαπώ τη νέα παγκόσμια τάξη», ο Biden, τότε γερουσιαστής από το Delaware, εξήγησε τα σχέδια του να παραχωρήσει την κυριαρχία των Ηνωμένων Πολιτειών στα Ηνωμένα Έθνη και στην Κίνα και να εγκαθιδρύσει μια νέα παγκόσμια κυβέρνηση, δίνοντας πνοή στον καταστατικό χάρτη του Οργανισμού Ηνωμένων Εθνών. Το σχέδιο του Biden για την Αμερική είναι ορατό εδώ και δεκαετίες. Να εξαπολύει ατελείωτους πολέμους, να παραδώσει την κυριαρχία των Ηνωμένων Πολιτειών στον Οργανισμό Ηνωμένων Εθνών και στην Κίνα και να συντρίψει οικονομικά κάθε έθνος που αντιστέκεται στην παγκοσμιοποιητική κατάληψη. Ποιος είναι λοιπόν ο πραγματικός ρόλος του Biden ως Προέδρου των Ηνωμένων Πολιτειών? Ο μικρόν Τζο Μπάιντεν είναι αναμφίβολα ένας άνθρωπος σε προφανή γνωστική παρακμή, αλλά δεν είναι τρελός, ηλίθιος ή ανίκανος. Ο Μπάιντεν ξέρει ποιος είναι και για ποιον εργάζεται. Είναι μια μαριονέτα της παγκόσμιας μεγάλης επανεκκίνησης και κάνει τη δουλειά του ακριβώς όπως του ανατέθηκε από τους ανωτέρους του. Στην πραγματικότητα, ο Τζο Μπάιντεν ορκίστηκε πίστη στη νέα παγκόσμια τάξη το 1992.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order, because the global order is changing again, and the institutions and the rules that worked so well in the post-World War II era for decades, they need to be strengthened, and some have to be changed. So we have to do what we do best. We have to lead. We have to lead. We have to update the global rules of the road. We have to do it in a way that maximizes benefits for everyone, because obviously it's overwhelmingly in our interest. This is not a zero-sum game. It's overwhelmingly in our interest that China prosper, that Mongolia prosper, that nations big and large, east and west.
As one of the top military people said to me in a secure meeting the other day, 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while. A lot of people dying, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. And we've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. So anyway.
People assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again in how we are used to normal, in the old fashion. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen. Cut.
People who have been yelling, oh, the UN's going to take over global
conspiracy
government.
Theorists.
They've been crazy, but now they're right.
Yeah.
A new world is emerging. It is a new world order with significantly different and radically new challenges for the future.
It's about the future of the whole region. It's about the future of Europe and a new world order.
I give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would.
It is going to have to be some semblance of global governance on these questions.
The question is, are you excited that a new world order is emerging, or are you concerned about America's sovereignty?
World order was in tune, and that's what they were working for. The UN is part of that government. They're working right now very significantly for North America.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
Is this some sort of new world order?
One of the ways it will drive the change is through global governance and global agreements.
The phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
We need a new way of thinking, a government that thinks big, that has a global perspective.
To build the new world order of the 21st century.
Will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity.
Basically, it is about having a world government. We should abolish all states, all nations, all borders, but instead have only one world government. And that world government is to be by certain people, elites, people who are very rich, very intelligent, very powerful in many ways. They are the ones who will govern the world. There was not much talk about democracy or choice of leaders. Instead, there was to be a government by these elites who will impose their rules on everyone in this world. And for those who are unwilling to submit to them, there will be punishment. And the peace that we will get from this is the peace of the graveyard, because the intention also is to reduce the number of people in this world. At the time when the New World Order was enunciated, the population of this world was only 3 billion. The intention was to reduce it to 1 billion. Now the population of the world is 7 billion. There will be a need to kill many billions of people, or to starve them to death, or to prevent them from giving birth, in order to reduce the population of this world.
El mundo está cambiando y un nuevo orden internacional surge con la contribución activa y dinámica de Rusia, China, Irán y otros países del ámbito internacional para cambiar un mundo más justo, más equitativo. Y continuamos en esa ruta, seguros que luchamos, resistimos, nos defendemos y vencemos.
This world of deglobalization, and I'm a proud globalist, so I'm going to say it first and foremost. This world of deglobalization, and I'm a proud globalist, so I'm going to say it first and foremost.